Whether you serve in law enforcement, the military, emergency services, business, or any profession where leadership matters, this podcast is designed to help you think deeper, lead stronger, and perform when it matters most. This is the Performance Leadership Podcast. Let's get started.
Welcome to today's deep dive. So, I want you to imagine something for a second. Have you ever just looked at someone, maybe on the subway or in a store, and thought, that person looks really suspicious?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we all do it. It's that immediate gut feeling.
Exactly. But today, we are going to completely deconstruct that exact gut feeling. We've got this fascinating stack of behavioral observation training protocols and case files to get through.
And this is really important stuff. It's based on a system called the left of bang protocol.
Right, which sounds like an action movie, but the mission here today is actually unpack how this attention management system works. It is not about demographic profiling.
No, not at all.
It's about training yourself to see the world like a professional observer, moving past your own biases to focus on actual concrete behavior. It's kind of like preventative medicine, right?
That's a great analogy.
Like catching the subtle symptoms before the full-blown disease hits, rather than just reacting once you're already in the emergency room.
I love that. And to jump right into the source material, there is a core mantra that anchors this entire system. The files repeat it constantly. Suspicious is a conclusion, behavior is evidence.
Suspicious is a conclusion, behavior is evidence. Okay, wow, that's powerful.
Right. And for anyone listening, in a world where we are just constantly bombarded with information and making split-second judgments, learning to separate factual behavior from your own emotional conclusions, that's essentially a superpower.
It really is. And I think a great place to start is looking at how we've actually gotten this wrong in the past. Like, think about standing in a crowded airport security line, watching TSA pull people aside.
Oh, the old TSA behavioral detection program. That is a perfect example of what not to do.
Seriously. Because for years, they were operating on this checklist of 36 specific indicators to spot a terrorist, like excessive sweating, or rapid eye blinking, or fidgeting.
Right. The idea was that nervousness automatically equals guilt. But when the Government Accountability Office, the GAO, actually audited that program, the results were pretty shocking.
Yeah, what was the number? It was like almost all of them were debunked, right?
Yeah, 28 out of the 36 indicators had absolutely zero scientific validity. They were completely useless for identifying actual threats.
28. That's just wild.
Yeah.
So if someone is sweating or nervous, it doesn't mean they're hiding a bomb.
Exactly. The human autonomic nervous system just does not differentiate between the stress of carrying contraband and, the stress of running late for a flight.
Or just arguing with your spouse in the car on the way there.
Right. Or just having clinical anxiety around authority figures. The physiological response is identical. Adrenaline spikes, hands get cold, sweat glands kick in to cool the body down.
And to an untrained observer, that bead of sweat just screams deception.
But it's just biological noise. Behavior can help direct our attention, but it absolutely does not let us read minds.
So to filter out that noise, these left of bang protocols break observation down into 3 core pillars, right?
Yes. You have to establish a baseline, identify an anomaly, and then look for a behavioral cluster.
Okay, let's break those down. What exactly is a baseline?
So the baseline is asking what is normal for this specific environment. Think of it like acoustic noise-canceling headphones.
Oh, I use those all the time on planes.
Right. And how do they work? The microphone on the outside first has to sample the ambient environment. It listens to the low, steady hum of the jet engines.
Okay.
And once it maps that specific baseline, it generates an inverse sound wave to cancel it out. It neutralizes the background noise so you only hear the music.
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
So behavioral baselining is the same thing. You can't filter out the noise of a crowded room until you figure out what the hum is.
Exactly. What is normal for this place at this time in this weather? Think about your own workplace or your morning commute. Do you actually know the baseline? Because if you don't know the baseline, you literally cannot spot the anomaly.
Which is the second pillar, the anomaly. Just a meaningful deviation from that baseline.
Right. But, and this is crucial, an anomaly just means something is different. It doesn't mean it's dangerous.
Like the TSA guy sweating. It's an anomaly, but maybe he just hates flying.
Precisely. Which brings us to the third pillar, and this is where the magic happens. The behavioral cluster. A cluster is multiple anomalies happening together, or in a sequence.
So not just an isolated cue.
Exactly. And the source files back this up with a massive FBI study on 63 active shooters.
Oh, right, the active shooter data. This part was fascinating because it totally dismantled the idea of demographic profiling.
It really did. You cannot ask who looks dangerous. The FBI data showed that attackers just aren't uniform. There's no specific age or background.
Right, but they did share behavioral similarities, didn't they?
They did. The data showed that on average, the attackers displayed 4 to 5 concerning behaviors prior to the event. Things like leakage of intent or really problematic interactions.
A cluster of 4 to 5 anomalies.
Yes. And the timeline is the most striking part. 77% of them spent at least a week planning.
Wow. A whole week.
And 46% spent a week preparing or acquiring the means for the attack. Threats develop over time. Meaningful threat detection comes from connecting behavior across time, not, making a 5-second judgment based on a gut feeling.
It really drives it home. So let's actually test this in the real world. The training files have these 2 quick scenarios to demonstrate this. Let's look at the convenience store one first.
Okay, set the scene.
So it's 9 o'clock at night. Dispatch gets a non-emergency call about a suspicious male standing right outside the front doors of a convenience store. The caller says he's been there for 15 minutes.
Okay, so let's apply the pillars. What's the baseline at a convenience store at 9:00 p.m.?
Well, it's highly transactional. People park, they walk in within 30 seconds, they buy their stuff, and they leave.
Right. So what are the anomalies this guy is displaying?
Well, he's not going inside. He's actively watching cars pull in. He's repeatedly leaning over to look in the glass windows. When a customer walks up, he physically moves away from the doors. And he's keeping his right hand totally hidden inside a heavy jacket pocket.
Okay, so we definitely have a behavioral cluster there. Multiple deviations from the baseline.
Right. And in the old way of thinking, a cop might roll up, see the hidden hand, see the pacing, and draw a weapon thinking it's a robbery about to happen.
But suspicious is a conclusion. Behavior is evidence. What does the geometry of his behavior actually tell us?
The geometry, you mean like how he's moving?
Yes. If he's preparing to rob the store, a predator typically closes distance and tries to dominate the space, but this guy is moving away from customers. He's yielding space.
Which perfectly explains the resolution of this file. When the officer just goes up and casually talks to him, it turns out the guy's waiting for his friend, the employee who is closing up the store.
Exactly.
He didn't want to get in the way of the mopping, so he stayed outside. He was looking through the glass to see if his friend was done. He stepped away from the doors to be polite to real customers. And the hand in the pocket. He was just cold and standing around for 15 minutes.
See, the anomaly existed, there was a cluster, but it had a totally innocent explanation. A hidden hand doesn't independently establish criminal intent.
That is such a good reality check. Now contrast that with the second scenario, the ATM surveillance.
Oh, this one is completely different.
Right, so caller reports someone hanging around a standalone ATM. They haven't used the machine.
And the baseline for an ATM is even more rigid than the store. It's walk up, put the card in, get cash, leave, under 2 minutes.
But this guy, it's like he's a terrible dancer who is completely out of rhythm with the environment.
I like that bad dancer. What's his cluster?
He's pacing a perimeter. He repeatedly walks past the machine. When someone uses it, he watches their hands into the pan.
Target assessment.
Exactly. And then, when a customer looks at him, he immediately turns his back. He's also scanning the parking lot entrances, and when a patrol car drives by down the street, he walks around the corner of the building and hides until it's gone.
Okay, so compare that to the convenience store. The lesson here isn't just loitering equals robbery. The lesson is that purposeful movement, target selection, watching the pin's timing, and counter surveillance all form a really strong behavioral cluster of a predator.
Hiding from the patrol car is a massive red flag. But wait, let me play devil's advocate here.
Yeah?
What if he's just, waiting for an Uber and he turned around because he's socially awkward?
That's a fair question, and the left of bank protocol acknowledges that. It doesn't mean you immediately tackle the guy, but the cluster provides reasonable legal grounds for a consensual contact or a Terry stop.
An investigation, basically.
Right. And in this training file, when they did make contact, they found out he had a full extradition felony warrant for strong-arm robberies.
Oh, wow.
Or, in other similar cases, it might be someone actively avoiding an aggressive ex-partner. The point is, the behavior justified the inquiry. The cluster warranted the intervention.
That makes a lot of sense. So isolated moments are one thing, but what happens when a cluster develops over days or even weeks?
This is where it gets really intense.
Yeah, this brings us to the centerpiece of these files, Case file 001, the observer outside the student center.
This case is a masterclass in behavioral tracking.
Okay, let's set the scene. It's Tuesday, October 8th, 2:37 in the afternoon. We're at a mid-sized university campus. Mild weather, the main plaza is totally crowded with students.
A very chaotic baseline.
Super chaotic. So dispatch gets a call from a campus employee looking out a window. They report a suspicious man sitting outside watching students for about an hour.
Okay, let's pause right there. Before the officer even arrives, we have to talk about the danger of that dispatch language.
Oh, right, the NIJ study.
Yes, the National Institute of Justice did a study in 2025 that is referenced in these files. They found that police officers were 37.7% more likely to make an arrest when a dispatcher classified a call as risky.
Almost 40% more likely to arrest someone just based on the word the dispatcher used. That is terrifying.
It's cognitive bias. Words like suspicious or aggressive create a biased frame in the responder's mind before they even arrive. They show up looking for a threat to validate that label.
So how should dispatch handle it?
A strong dispatch shouldn't use labels at all. It should just describe the behavior. What are they doing? Who are they focused on? How long have they been there? That's it.
Well, thankfully, the officer in this case plays it smart. They arrive at 2:44 p.m. and just observe from a distance to establish the baseline.
Let's run the baseline of a college campus.
Right, so people are sitting with laptops, eating, waiting for friends, writing in notebooks. It's a very permissive environment.
Yeah.
So when the officer sees a 40-year-old man sitting on a bench with a backpack and a notebook, he actually matches the baseline perfectly.
Exactly. At that moment, there is no behavioral cluster. Sitting in a plaza with a notebook is not a crime.
But then, at 2:53 p.m., the behavior shifts. The officer spots the anomaly.
And what was it?
It wasn't just general people watching, it was selective attention.
That's a huge shift.
Yeah, the notes detail the exact sequence. He ignores a group of noisy guys, he ignores a pair of women walking together, but then a lone female student in a light blue nursing uniform exits the building.
And what does he do?
He locks onto her, he watches her walk, looks up at the distant parking garage she's heading toward, and immediately writes something down in his notebook.
Now, I have to ask, is this a crime?
No. I mean, he could just be doing sociology research or writing a story, right?
Exactly, or waiting for a friend. But it is a highly specific anomaly. It is a prompt to investigate.
And it escalates quickly. At 3:02 p.m., target fixation kicks in. The man packs up, stands up, and follows the nursing student from about 50 yards away.
Keeping that rigid distance in a crowd takes effort.
Yeah, he follows her all the way to the parking garage.
Sure.
But here's the crazy part. He stops outside, checks his phone, doesn't even go into the garage, and then just turns around and walks back to his bench in the plaza.
Okay, let's play devil's advocate again. Couldn't he just be going for a walk, realized he went the wrong way, and changed his mind?
I mean, maybe?
Sure, it's possible. But we have moved from passive observation to synchronized movement connected to a specific person. Target fixation, maintaining a disciplined distance, stopping at a controlled location like a garage, and then returning to a vantage point. That is a highly specific predatory cluster.
So the officer knows they need to act. A second call actually comes in from a student in the library who thought the guy looked creepy, which prompts the officer to finally approach.
The consensual encounter? How does the subject react?
He's super calm. He claims he's just enjoying the weather, waiting for a friend named Sarah, but his answers are really vague. And physically, he keeps his hands visible, but he angles his foot sharply away from the officer, like toward the exit.
Blading the body, an autonomic preparatory movement for escape.
Exactly. But the biggest thing is the open notebook on his lap. The officer can plainly see it. It's a grid with columns: time, clothing, direction, alone, vehicle, dorm.
A target matrix. It's chilling. The officer asks to search the notebook and his bag. But the man looks him dead in the eye and says, "No, I do not consent to any searches. Am I free to go?"
This is such a massive point in the files, both legally and behaviorally. Refusing a search is not suspicious behavior.
Wait, really? Most people think if you have nothing to hide, you just let them look.
That's a common misconception, but asserting your constitutional rights is not an anomaly indicating guilt. Unaffiliated presence on a public campus isn't trespassing. Vague answers don't prove criminal intent.
So the officer's just stuck.
Well, an untrained officer might let their ego take over and force an illegal search. But this officer correctly avoids turning uncertainty into unsupported enforcement. Instead, they opt for rigorous documentation. They ID him, let him leave, and document everything.
Which turns out to be the move that breaks the whole case wide open. Because the officer on the scene is only seeing one piece of the puzzle. How does the rest of the picture get built?
Organizational memory. Right. So the officer goes to the detectives. They pull dispatch records for the last month. And they find 3 vague prior reports. A guy following someone near the library, a guy taking photos of the recreation center, and someone asking dorm schedules.
Vague, but the geographic cluster is forming.
But then they find the missing link. The nursing student in the blue scrubs had actually filed a report a few weeks earlier.
Oh, wow. What did she report?
She said she felt like she was being followed twice. And then she found a handwritten note tucked under her car's windshield wiper.
Do the files say what the note said?
Yeah, it just said, "I see you here every Tuesday."
Oh, that is
It
terrifying.
gets worse. The detective contacts her. She tells them that after that first note, she was so scared she completely changed her parking routine. She bought a new permit and started parking in a hidden surface lot on the total opposite side of campus.
She evaded him.
She tried to, but 2 weeks later, he found her new spot. He left a second note on her car, and this one specifically referenced her private class schedule.
Okay, let's stop and really look at that from a behavioral standpoint. That phrase, adaptation to her changed routine, is a massive red flag.
Because he had to actively hunt for her to find that new spot.
Exactly. It indicates high-level, targeted surveillance. It's not a coincidental presence anymore. To reacquire a target that has broken their baseline routine requires scouting, monitoring exits, researching schedules. It's a huge expenditure of energy.
It's predatory planning. And the campus video evidence backs it all up. The detectives pull 4 weeks of footage, and it's like developing a photograph in a darkroom.
Right. The blurry image slowly becomes crystal clear.
They find him on camera on 9 separate days, following the student, photographing license plates, watching the dorms.
The behavioral cluster is now completely corroborated by objective video.
So based purely on behavior, not dispatch labels like creepy or suspicious, they get a search warrant for his apartment.
And what do they find when they serve it?
It is a nightmare. They find hand-drawn maps with her class change times circled. Notes on exactly when female students are walking alone. His computer has search histories on how to bypass the electronic locks on the dormitories.
Wow.
And the worst part, a documented, step-by-step written plan to physically confront the nursing student inside that concrete parking garage.
They caught him just left of bang.
They did. No weapons were found, but there was ample evidence for felony stalking charges and emergency campus protections. He was stopped.
And it all traces back to the core lesson of this entire training module: weak versus strong documentation.
Let's break that down, because it's so important for anyone in security or really just anyone observing their environment. What does weak documentation look like?
Weak documentation is subjective, it sounds like. The suspicious male acted nervous and watched students.
Which is totally useless to a detective reading it 2 weeks later.
Exactly. It's an adjective-filled guess. Contrast that with strong documentation. During an 18-minute period, I saw the subject watch 5 lone female students. On 4 occasions, he wrote in a notebook immediately after. He followed one student 50 yards to the garage, stopped, and returned.
Objective. Specific. It's usable evidence.
Right. It creates that organizational memory. And we need that because the FBI active shooter data in these files points out something really tragic. In 83% of cases, people around the attacker actually noticed the concerning behaviors.
83%. So almost everyone saw the anomaly.
Yes, but only 41% of them ever reported it. We talk ourselves out of our own observations because we don't want to overreact. And when it is reported weekly, it just gets lost in the noise. Law enforcement has to document specific behaviors so later investigators can connect the patterns.
That is just incredible. So to recap this whole journey for you listening,
Yeah.
we've learned that you absolutely must establish a baseline before you can ever spot an anomaly.
Right, define the normal hum of the room.
Anomalies are just prompts to investigate, not proof of a threat. Single cues like sweating mean very little, but behavioral clusters over time reveal real intent.
And suspicious is just a biased conclusion. Behavior is the only real evidence.
Which brings us to the end of today's deep dive. But before we go, I want to leave you with a final provocative thought to mull over.
Oh, I've got one for this.
Go for it.
We spend so much time relying on our gut feelings about people based on how they look or dress. But if suspicious is just a biased conclusion and behavior is the only real evidence, What invisible everyday behaviors are happening right around you in your baseline environment that you are entirely missing because you're looking for the wrong things?
Wow. Think about that next time you're sitting in a coffee shop or waiting for a train. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Start observing your world a little differently tomorrow.